That night, September 11th, 1922, Meher Baba with Gustadji, Ghani, Sadashiv, Adi and Sayyed Saheb left Bombay by the Gujarat Mail train for Ajmer in northern India, arriving at midnight of the following day. They stayed in the Edward Memorial Hotel, where Baba suffered dysentery and was seriously ill. The next day, all rested well except Baba, who suffered 6 painful bowel movements.
Ooh. I've been there.
On September 14th, all fasted for 24 hours by the Master's order while visiting the tomb of the Mohammedan perfect master KHWAJA Saheb Chisti. Chisti is famous for being the Qutub-e-Irshad. Perfect, the head of the spiritual hierarchy during the 12th century. Sayyed Saheb and Ghani were told to recite the Fateha, Muslim prayer in honor of the departed souls, inside the shrine. The master continued to suffer dysentery in a terrible manner, passing green, black, brown, and gray stools.
Oh my God!
He's taking something.
The inside was coming out.
It became obvious he was becoming extremely weak. The men were sent to visit the Jain Golden Temple. This is another faith, Jain. The Daulat Gardens and the Anna Sagar Lake, while Baba remained at the hotel. Ghani and Sayyed Saheb also went to Shah Jahan Mosque, where they offered Friday namaz.
Namaz.
What's that mean?
Namaz on Friday. N-A-M-A-Z.
I just did upstairs.
She's Muslim, so
I just did upstairs.
she knows.
For money.
So you did namaz,
Yeah,
prayers.
I did, yeah.
Prayer.
5 times.
Muslim
5
prayers
a day,
are
but I
called
did for
namaz,
money
and
now,
they
my
bow.
Baba.
Kak Sahib arrived on September 16th and Bailey showed up 2 days later. Ghani and Kak Sahib visited Taragar, where they saw the famous mosque said to have been miraculously erected in only 2.5 days. On September 18, Meher Baba directed the Mandali to go to Pushkar, an important historical place of pilgrimage, 10 miles to the northwest of Ajmer. Considering his state of health, the men refused to leave without him. Baba tried to explain, "If I had stayed here alone, I would have been all right by this evening. Yet since you will not go without me, and I do not wish to deprive you of enjoyment, I will come. But remember my words, it will be your fault that this present illness of mine will be prolonged for 15 more days.
Oh, my. 15 days of dysentery.
Pain.
It basically could wipe you out forever.
Yeah.
Your body can't
And he was very
stand that.
weak by this
could
time.
die.
Oh, dysentery. I was telling Rosalie earlier when I got back from India, my first 2 trips, I was so sick. I
You
had
call it dysentery?
I had dysentery,
Dysentery.
and I thought I was going to die.
Right, yeah, something like that. Yeah.
9 o'clock. You know, I have an idea since Jamie's here that we watch a video that we.
Oh, no, I gotta go.
Yeah, well,
Yes,
you don't
what's-
have to, but.
No, I
You
gotta
have to go
I
at
would
9.
like to show the old Parvati
Okay.
garden. You probably have to go soon anyway.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, it's getting late.
Yeah, it's getting a little late, but
Oh yeah, if you
Something
want
like
those
Oh, yeah, well,
tickets,
video.
they have-
Sure.
did you get them already?
You'll see for yourself.
Oh,
but,
I haven't talked to you. We haven't got the tickets.
I'll see for yourself.
Said you
Yeah.
follow
Yeah.
whatever faith you have.
So
Yeah.
which
Very
time do you want to
rare.
go, Friday or
Yeah.
Saturday?
It helps you
You
come
want to go
closer
Saturday,
to
the
him.
19th then?
Okay.
So
I've talked to
Very
everybody. They
nice.
called me yesterday, as a matter of fact.
that would be,
Anyway, I have to be going too. you
that would
know.
be 44 plus,
For 4?
4, and it'll be 60, so $70.
Right, right, okay.
Yes, I'll let you know that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Excellent.
All right, Kennedy, Che Baba.
Say bye, everyone.
Excuse my
Yes.
Okay, Che Baba, we'll see.
Yes, we're going to watch it.
Now, okay, we're starting with Lord Meher Today is the October 9th, 1996. It's a beautiful Wednesday night at the center, and it's also the mailing night. Work crew is here for the Love Street lamppost. Beautiful edition dedicated to Mani Irani, who went to Baba on August 19th, 1996. So we begin in volume 2 of Lord Mayher this evening. It's page 410. It's the biography of the Avatar of the Age, Meher Baba, volume 2, covering the years 1922 to 1925. Of course, authored by Bowel Culture.
Yeah.
So we'll begin. Hey, Jai Baba, Billy.
Jai Baba.
We'll begin with. In 1922, Meher Baba was at the ashram, Manzali Mim in Bombay, and there were certain requirements going on. For instance, we'll begin on paragraph 2 on page 410. On September 14th, all fasted for 24 hours by the master's order while visiting the tomb of the Mohammedan perfect master, KHWAJA Saheb Chisti. Chisti is famous for being the Qutub-e-Irshad, the head of the spiritual hierarchy during the 12th century. Sayyed Saheb and Ghani were told to recite the Fateha, a Muslim prayer in honor of the departed souls, inside the shrine. The master continued, that is Baba, was suffering from dysentery in a terrible manner. He was passing green, black, brown, and gray stools. It became obvious he was becoming extremely weak. The men were sent to visit the Jain Golden Temple, the Daulat Gardens, and the Anasagar Lake, while Baba remained at the hotel. Ghani and Sayyed Saheb also went to Shah Jahan Mosque, where they offered Friday namaz. KHWAJA Saheb arrived on September 16th, and Bailey showed up 2 days later. Ghani and KHWAJA Saheb visited Taraga, where they saw the famous mosque, said to have been miraculously erected in only 2.5 days. On September 18th, Meher Baba directed the Mandali to go to Pushkar, an important historical place of pilgrimage, 10 miles to the northwest of Ajmer. Considering his state of health, the men refused to leave without him. Baba tried to explain, "If I had stayed here alone, I would have been all right by this evening. Yet, since you will not go without me, and I do not wish to deprive you of enjoyment, I will come. But remember my words, it will be your fault that this present illness of mine will be prolonged for 15 more days."
Wow.
So, however, the men did not listen and insisted he join them. Despite his discomfort, he accompanied them to Pushkar Raj. Without a complaint, Baba bore the rough jolts of the long ride in an ekka, a horse-drawn conveyance, mostly used in northern India and Rajasthan. The Hindu temple at Pushkar is exceptionally beautiful and fascinating. The lake is one of the most sacred in India. According to legend, Brahma, while creating the earth, looked at this spot and dropped a lotus flower from his hand. Water sprang forth immediately. Thus, over centuries, it became one of the most famous places of pilgrimage in India. The temple is one of the few in India dedicated to the Creator. According to the Master's behest, the Irani and Muslim members of the Mandali offered worship in the temple, adhering to Hindu rites. On the bank parapet recited incantations and applied red tika marks to their foreheads. They then took darshan of the idol in the temple and returned to the hotel. Boarding the night train, they reached Bombay on the 19th of September. Baba was still unwell, suffering diarrhea during the entire journey. While the group was in Ajmer, Sarosh repaired someone's car and earned 10 rupees. which those in the manzil spent on sweets. Like kids. You know. On his return, Baba immediately found out about it. He became extremely irritated by their laxness and ordered Sarosh's belongings to be thrown out. This was done, and he then demanded of Sarosh to leave at once. Sarosh pleaded, "I was not the only one who disobeyed you. There were other culprits. Those who've just thrown out my bedding shared the sweets with me." Baba became more annoyed and told Sarosh to throw out their belongings also, which he did. Baba then shouted at Behramji, I had kept you here to look after things. And this is the kind of supervision you provide? Why did you allow them to break my order?" "I tried to tell them, but they would not listen to me," Behramji defended. "Moreover, I did not eat any of the sweets." Baba then sternly told the men, "Because of breaking my order, you caused my health to suffer while I was away. Do you enjoy seeing me in this ill condition? I have to fast. My stomach is upset. I've had diarrhea for many days, and you all enjoyed sweets without my permission. Is this how you love me? Is this an example of your devotion?" After a while, however, Baba calmed down and forgave them. Afterward, the belongings of each man were brought back into the house. Baba recovered completely after a fortnight, as he had predicted in Ajmer. And on the 16th day, September 27th, he sang sweetly with the men during a session of devotional songs, as Adi played the sitar and he played the dolak. On September 28th, Meher Baba put up this notice on the board, which was kept in the manzil. The following will come in force from October 1st until God knows when. Number 1, go to bed at 9 p.m. and get up at 4 a.m.
Wow.
Number 2, from 4 to 5 a.m., answer nature's call, attend to ablutions, etc. Number 3, from 5 to 6 a.m., be absorbed in devotion to God in the manner to be explained by me one day before. Signed, Merwan, 28 September 1922. Equals 59 equals 14. Huh?
The numerology.
Baba purposely did that. Baba wrote the number 28/9/22. You know, it's the way to write dates in India. They put the day first, the month, and then he puts equals 5, 9, 59. In other words, 2 plus 8 plus 9 plus 2 plus 2 equals 59. 5 and 9 equals 14 he had. Signed Merwan. So he had basically some numerology significance. Baba used it. He's the one that put that directive up there. So, on the first day of October 1922, the new schedule came into effect, which Meher Baba explained. The main object of asking you to follow this new program is to keep you awake in the early hours of the morning, especially between 4 and 5 a.m. From the spiritual point of view, this is the most valuable and important time of the day. The important prayers in every religion and the practices of all advanced yogis take place during this hour. In fact, from the yogic point of view, it is imperative to be awake in the early hours of the morning. I ask you to follow any religious or yogic practice, as this order is quite apart from both. I simply want you to keep awake in these hours. I have already explained to you that besides the viewpoints of religion, study, meditation, and yoga, the early hours are important from the spiritual point of view as well. It was between these hours that Babajan gave me the experience of truth. And it was also at this time when Upasni Maharaj brought me up out of the ocean. And it will be between these hours that the circle, too, will attain realization. But now the question arises as to how to pass the time after getting up so early. Certainly not in lolling about or playing cards draughts or chit-chatting, it is not becoming for us to do such things as we are following the path.
What's this drop?
Perhaps it's like checkers.
Oh.
It is checkers.
Oh.
So the best way of passing the time will be this. From 4 to 5 a.m., all should attend to the daily necessities and take cold baths.
I love that. Between 4 and 5 in the morning.
Wow.
That's one way a guy realized.
Yeah, man, we were.
What was that?
It says, so the best way of passing the time will be this. From
Between
4 to 5 a.m., all should attend to the daily necessities and take cold baths.
Right.
Between 5 and 6 a.m., all should engage themselves in repeating prayers such as namaz for Mohammedans, sadra, Chisti for Parsis, puja for Hindus, and devote the major portion of your time to repeating the name of God according to your respective religion, Allah, Ram, or Yezdan. This repetition is to be done mentally while sitting in one fixed position. Although the repetition is to be carried on in the mind without moving the tongue or lips, beware that your eyes do not close. This is one of the yogic practices. For a fakir, it is unnecessary to close either his eyes, nose, or mouth, nor is it necessary for him to follow religious rituals or other practices. Once you sit down, stick to that position without changing until the bell rings for breakfast at 6 a.m. Keep repeating the divine name in your mind with a free heart and without thinking of the time.
Then I have excuse. I am happy.
Meher Baba then asked each one which name of God he would repeat and in which position he would sit. After everyone answered, he declared there should be no change at all for the following 10 months, either in the repetition of the name of God or in the posture adopted. He then concluded, "This is my first spiritual instruction to you. Do not fail to carry it out." Although the Master had pointed out that this practice was only a form of worshiping God, a few of the men entertained hopes of having a spiritual experience while meditating, since he had remarked some time ago, quotes, "Each man will have different experiences in September," end quotes. Their hope for a glimpse of divinity proved a great incentive for them to eagerly fulfill the order. From October 2nd, all the men awoke at 4 a.m. The cold bath quickly made them wide awake, oh God, and they sat still for 1 hour in worship. Exactly at 6 o'clock, the breakfast gong was sounded and they went to have tea. This turned into the morning routine, although there were some humorous incidents. Bairamji would awake them at 4 a.m., but he himself would be half asleep while holding a kerosene lantern. Brother Jal could not bear the cold baths, so he would taking the bath by splashing water on the bathroom walls.
Jal did that? That stink a little, the scallywag.
Ghani also detested the freezing bath in the early morning. His ploy was to enter the bathroom and mutter some sounds as he poured water on the floor, never taking off his clothes. Gustadji was the only one exempt from these morning practices, as he was responsible for having breakfast ready by 6 a.m. sharp. The following Saturday, Meher Baba awakened everyone an hour earlier and Upasni Maharaj's arti was sung. Thereafter, the men prepared the backyard of the manzil for sports. The work of leveling the ground continued for several days, until the yard was quite smooth and hard. Ghani was usually feeling sleepy, and he resorted to the following stratagem to escape this early morning labor. When Baba was standing on the veranda, overseeing the work, Ghani would loudly chant this song as he pulled the leveling roller. Oh, Shireen, trouble not Farhad to tunnel the mountain. He is your lover, not a common laborer. At first, the other men could not understand why Ghani, who was the laziest of the lot, was singing with so much enthusiasm. But when he kept repeating the same couplet, they all caught on and began laughing, as did Baba, who then called Ghani before him and told the Mandali, "Look at the face and features of this Farhad. Is this my lover? What luck do I have? Look how big this man's head is." Everyone had a hearty laugh. However, from that day on, Baba freed Ghani from the common labor and engaged him in proofreading the manuscript of Upasni Maharaja's Urdu biography. No one was allowed to leave the manzil without Meher Baba's permission, and no one could enter it either. As instructed, Ghani wrote a letter on the master's behalf to Professor Abdul Qadar of Ethelstone College
What's it called?
in Bombay.
Elphinstone College. I went to that college.
You went?
Not in 1922. I was.
I mean, it still was there.
It's part of the University of Bombay.
So it's a high standard.
Yeah, it's a college, like the JC.
Oh, JC.
Named after an elephant?
Elphinstone. It was one of the British, Lord Elphinstone.
Yeah.
Probably somebody in Bombay in the British days.
As in,
Mumbai.
It's now called Mumbai.
It's
It's no longer Bombay. It's Mumbai.
It's in the Colaba area.
Bombay, Mumbai.
Where the gateway of India.
Oh, right.
I think
by-
they should keep it all. Bombay, Mumbai.
I call it Bombay.
Change to Mumbai now. You say Bombay. If you mail something to, if you send to Bombay, your letter won't get there. They won't get there. They'll send it back to you.
I sent my
They sent it to the past.
Mumbai. Bombay. We heard a notice in the newspaper that said if you don't use Mumbai, your letter will be returned. M-U-M-B-A-I.
That was the original name.
That was the original name. That was the name. Yeah, exactly. Well, Mumbai goes all the way back to the ancient times in
The
India.
goddess of the fishing village is Mumba Devi. There was a fishing village for the Portuguese, and they called it. They couldn't pronounce Mumbai, so they made it
Bombay.
No one was allowed to leave the manzil without Meher Baba's permission, and no one could. Ghani wrote a letter on the master's behalf to Professor Abdul Qadar of Elphinstone College in Bombay, now Mumbai,
One thing.
and handed the letter to Munshi Rahim to deliver. Munshi promptly delivered it to the professor. On reading it, a surprised expression came over his face. And Munshi asked him the reason. The letter simply said he should not come to Manzili Mim unless he was sent for. He explained to Munshi, "I was about to go to see Meher Baba at 5 o'clock this very afternoon. I was wondering how I would get his permission to enter. So I decided to stand by the gates until I was allowed to see him. But now that his order has come, how can I go?" Munshi consoled him by explaining that it was best to go when Baba would call for him. At times, the master's physical body would react very strangely, and he would not explain why. On October 2nd, Baba was in an exceptionally good mood all day. But when he was retiring for the night, he called Ghani and said, "I have a high fever." Ghani felt his hand and found the fever was slight, but his forehead and chest were burning hot. Baba cryptically said, "This is the second illness, and quite different from the first." He was in much pain, complaining about aching knees and feet, and felt restless. He looked delirious, muttering incoherent words as Ghani massaged his legs. Oh!
Oh, something fell.
After some time, he then complained of feeling cold. Ghani covered him with a blanket and was told to leave him alone. Oh. In the morning, the Mandali found this notice written on the board. "The whole night, fever was my strict companion. Now tell me, with sleepless nights, weakness resulting from the last illness, and fever, with all three combined, what hope is there for me to avoid the fatal illness which has already begun its attack?" Merwan, October 3rd, 1922. During breakfast, Baba divulged to the Mandali that at night he had actually wept. As proof, he told them to ask Gustadji, who had seen the tears flowing from his eyes. He said, "May my enemy never suffer the kind of night I suffered last night." Referring to his sickness in the afternoon, Baba remarked to the presence of Sadashiv Patel and others, "This is the third time during the last 8 years that I have actually shed tears and then gotten ill. The first 2 illnesses were a wound in my shoulder, and then the dysentery was Ajmer. For the various members of my circle, I will thus have to die 28 times, and every time I will have to cry. But the subsequent illnesses will be lesser and lesser in severity. This fever is for you, Sadashiv, who always suffers from it." The first 2 sicknesses concern Gustadji and Baramji. The second group for whom I will have to suffer includes Ghani. In the circle, Ghani's number is 7, and it is most significant because even after realization, this number is always with the perfect master. The next 3 to 4 illnesses will be somewhat severe, but the suffering will lessen thereafter. Listening, Mandali were wondering when Baba would have to suffer for them.
Want me to read that? I got it right
Yeah.
here. The avatar's every breath is for the benefit of all the animate as well as inanimate things in creation. His form on the physical plane. His universal work concerns everything in the creation. He forms his circle of 122 people and does his universal work through each circle member. At times the avatar suffers, and consequently so many the circle members. Refer to the book Avatar of the Age, Meher Baba Manifesting, pages 112 to 122, for an explanation about the functioning of the circle. So that was a footnote.
Later, while comparing worldly happiness with divine bliss, Baba explained, "An ocean of worldly happiness is merely a shadow, not even a drop of a single small drop of the infinite ocean of divine bliss. It is for this reason that a Sadguru is called Satchit Ananda, all knowledge, all power, and all bliss." After tea the next day, Baba played chess with Ramju, and though he played inattentively, he won. A discussion about the best chess player in the Manzil ensued, and Baba remarked, "If I concentrate and put my mind in any game, I can defeat the best of experts or champions." Ghani inquired what Baba meant by concentrating and putting the power of his mind in it. The master then gave the following explanation. He who is a slave to his mind is an ordinary human being. He who has conquered the mind, but at the same time is overpowered by it, drowned in intoxication, is called by Sufis a majub. A wali or saint who has progressed toward the goal, lives in the higher spiritual planes and controls the mind to some extent.
Give us another batch.
The first case, slave to the mind, is of the worldly mind, and the second is of God, meaning the majub has a state of mind that has realized the truth. The wali or saint is in advanced stages of the mind and mental control, progressing toward realization of the truth. But the perfect master or salik has become a distinct state, wherein he can enjoy and experience every condition of the mind whenever he wishes. For example, a perfect master is rarely required to put his mind into worldly affairs, but occasionally he has to do so for the sake of his circle members. For instance, the residents of Kamatapura Lane, number 7, are King George's subjects. But does His Majesty know anything about Kamatapura, a Bombay slum? Whether such a place exists at all in his empire, far short of the individual residents of the locality? If, however, he wishes to know anything about Kamatapura, or even one particular resident of the place, he can be furnished with the necessary information in no time, either through the telegraph office, the post office, or the CID, Secret Service. Similarly, a perfect master can reach to the very source of anything and everything that he cares to know about. That is, concentrate his mind and put the power of his mind in it. But he seldom does it. The interest he seems to take in the things of this world, by word or deed, is simply offhanded. However serious his interest may outwardly appear, on such rare occasions, the mind that he, the perfect master, seems to use is the mind devoid of divinity. He simply does things as they occur to him at the time, almost mechanically, without thinking about it. Not only by discourses, but also by reciting red light on spiritual matters for the mandali. The following ghazal was written by Meher Baba during the early 1920s. It was translated many years later by Adi Keirani. This world exists, but is not your final abode. Turn your face toward God. How long will you live in this transient world? It is a testing ground of virtue and vice for you to experience. Slacken not your effort in worshiping God. Look upon every breath as your last. You know not what will happen tomorrow, so be prepared today for the future. Conditions in the world have not changed, but marvelous have been the visitors to this world. From the garden of this world have departed millions of beings like nightingales. Hundreds of thousands more will come and go. Atma, the soul, is one. Varied are the bodies indeed, like the many sons of one father cherished. Behold there, on the meadow of love, many a rider of variegated colors flourishes. With our diversity, there is no rest. In hardship and sorrow, be grateful and at peace. In distress, always keep content. Have patience. and at all times be at ease. Continuously washing your clothes is a waste of time. Instead, purify your heart with the thought of God divine. Behold at the feet of one God in form. Every moment, hundreds of souls lie in sacrifice. Do not take forbidden intoxicants. Better to live a life of honor and esteem. Learn to live in the unique intoxication of the early morning love of God. I like that. Learn to live in the unique intoxication of the early morning love of God.
Oh,
Isn't that great? God is matchless, one in all. See him in your heart. See him also as the God manifest, the God concealed, the God within you, and the God without. Man, in your boast, you lost the status of an angel. Pride has reduced you to a devil. O Huma, in this world of passing show, behold like you, such innumerable players come and go. Suhas, you want to?
once
418.
Once a stranger came to Manzil-e-Mim and narrated his long list of problems to Meher Baba. He begged Baba to bless him and bowed to the master. After he had gone, Baba remarked, "People come to see me almost always ask me to bless them." People coming to see me. These simple souls do not know that masters neither bless nor curse anyone. The fulfillment of their worldly desires gained by approaching a divine personality is in direct proportion to the faith they manifest toward him. And their prayers are answered by the divine powers active around him. A perfect master works in the spiritual domain on a universal level. Those on the planes work on a limited personal level, and it is their spoken word that brings about the desired result when they bless. When approaching a perfect master with the object of deriving material benefit, one would be better off requesting him for his curse, because a blessing from him, if at all he gives it, is sanskaric links from his worldly surroundings with a view to making him one like the master. Oh boy. That's the blessing the master gives to make you like him. Another Zoroastrian, Khodadad K. Irani, a relative of Adi's, heard about Meher Baba from Gulmai and was permitted to stay in Manzil-e-Mim. During the day, he was employed in a textile mill. Khodadad had suffered from chronic asthma since childhood, so Baba nicknamed him Asthma.
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 his name.
Despite the best medical treatment and dietary precautions, Khodadad could not rid himself of this ailment. But it was observed that since coming to the Manzil and being addressed by this new nickname, he was freed from any asthma attacks. And the disease eventually left him altogether.
You know, I'll tell you something interesting about asthma that Bowji told us when I was just in India this last time. When Bow was researching for Lord Mayhair, he went to Bombay and contacted asthma. And what had happened was he had married a very orthodox Zoroastrian woman and would not allow him to talk about Meher Baba anymore. So Bowji went, found the address, went and knocked on the door. This was not that long ago, you know. And the wife came to the door, and he knew that the wife didn't like Baba or wasn't open to that. So he said, "I'm here to talk about Zoroaster." And so they went in, and he went, and Asthma was laying in his bed. And Baal said he stood there, and they talked about Zoroaster and prayers and pencil this. And then, and the wife was very enthusiastic. And then she asked Bao was hungry. Wanted some tea. It was tea time. And Bao's like, oh, tea. And she goes, maybe some refreshments? And he goes, oh, yes, I'm very hungry, So she goes out to fix it. Immediately, she leaves. Bao looks at Ajmer and says, I came really to talk to you about Meher Baba. And Bao said, as soon as he said that, the man just burst into tears.
Oh,
he said, I haven't even been able to talk about Baba for these last years, or no contact.
Oh my God!
And Baba had told me to marry this woman, and knowing that it meant that he was going to be separated from Baba. And Bao said, as soon as he mentioned Baba's name, that he burst into tears, and Bao hugged him, and then he relayed some information. And then when they heard the wife getting ready to bring in trays of food, Bao wiped his tears, and everything, and back to Zoroaster. So that was just, I'd never heard that. And Bao just told Bao just told that.
It taught me a lesson too about if you're with someone who maybe, people don't understand or don't understand Baba, instead of trying to drive it down their throat, respect them. And that's a sweet story in that respect. Here this man lived with Baba, but he never tried to put it down his wife. So.
No. Baba told him to go marry her.
Wow. So he was following Baba's instructions.
Exactly.
Without any kind of
even though it meant that he wouldn't be able to have contact with Baba anymore.
Oh my.
But Fred, Baba never disallowed people to follow their own faith, whatever it might be.
Yes.
He's always maintained that it is best if you follow your own religion or creed or a perfect master, but many people do not get the good fortune of coming in contact with a perfect master.
Or a perfect master?
Yes, it is best to follow the tenets of your creed or your faith. If you're Christian, be a good Christian. If you're a Zoroastrian, be a good Zoroastrian. Follow because those are guidelines that are set
Now you read
forth.
that. The one we did prayer, Fateha.
It's best to follow, it is best to follow the tenets of your creed or faith, or to follow a perfect master. But not everybody has the good fortune of coming in contact with a perfect master in their lifetime. But I got that in much love because it gives a lot of the calendar events of his life, and I read that recently. The reason for that is Baba was never jealous or anything about you following your own faith, because he said, I am in everything. And he was the founder of each faith or religion, whether it's Zoroastrianism, Islam, which was Muhammad. He said he was that. He is that. In an incarnation at another time and space in our history. Baba was Ram, Baba was Krishna, Baba was Zoroaster. Baba was Christ. Baba was Muhammad.
When we're founding them again?
In the times when they came in their form. And 700 or 1400 years from now, Baba will remanifest as some other name in another form. We won't be there in our names and our forms. We may come in contact with them. It won't be in our lifetime.
Because Baba was all of them. Baba was all of them. Therefore, you get power for all of them. Therefore, Baba has a lot of power. More than Jesus, more than Muhammad, more than Ram.
No, he's the same.
I know, but because it
he's more powerful now because his manifestation is the highest in this incarnation.
Therefore, it's more powerful. We can feel it, that's way.
Well, like he says, I'm like fresh oatmeal. In other words, there's oatmeal on the shelf from Buddha, Christ, Muhammad, but now Baba's the fresh Baba. It's the same oatmeal. But he's fresh. That's all. It's just.
Okay, the rest of the oatmeal's on the shelf. Baba is in the bowl.
In the bowl.
Piping hot.
Piping hot. Well,
that's why he says the first 100 years of his lifetime, his manifestation is the strongest. And as time goes by,
we got plenty of books here.
Then you can go back to your meditations and ways to, because by then we will not be around.
There was no
And
Maybe they come again another
Little
soul.
envelopes.
No, we need
Baba,
this.
not Baba, the avatar will be reincarnated again. The avatar always reincarnates every 700 to 1400 years. And the name at that time will be different because the people's name, the life and times will be different when he reincarnates. We're not living in Jesus' time. We're not living in Muhammad's time. We're living in now. And they're all the same. That's what you have to understand. Shall we proceed?
Always the wicked beliefs, there's always the times they always wicked.
Yeah, he says, when I'm in your presence, I'm the strongest, like you said, fresh oatmeal. But as time goes by, after 200 years and so, then people, when his energy weakens to the next, our generations to come, then they have meditation, then they can approach him by meditation and prayer and all that. But right now, when he's amongst us, that's not necessary. Love him, because he's closest to you. Like, you have to feel the energy. May I proceed?
Yes, please, proceed.
Okay. So his asthma got cured. And it seemed almost miraculous that his attacks of asthma no longer occurred in spite of taking cold baths each morning.
He did even, yeah.
So that's wonderful.
I know.
On October 4th, Asthma purchased a new bicycle and brought it to the manzil. Baba wanted to exercise and rode it over the recently rolled back playground. Thereafter instructing Asthma never to loan the bicycle to anyone else to use.
So Baba used it once.
Let anybody else.
Give anybody else.
Later in the evening of October 4th, after dinner, the master expounded on the function of the Sadguru, or the perfect master, explaining Karas and Mukti, liberation. Mukti means liberation, freedom from rebirth.
Yeah.
So he says, no yogi can gain eternal freedom or emancipation even though he might have reached the highest yogic state of samadhi through his practices. Because sanskaras are still there, and all types behind while doing any good or bad action.
He doesn't handle anything right.
Even a thought creates sanskaras.
He hit his head there.
Talking, listening.
I want to pick it up for you.
Are you all right?
Yeah.
Gus hit his head on the piano.
Jai Baba.
He was reaching for his hat.
Do you want ice?
You need ice, Gus?
No, let's go with water.
You want ice?
You want
You never
ice?
should give him ice.
No, it's okay. I'm okay.
Relax.
Should we do some drink, cold drink?
You're moving too fast.
My head get hurt.
He's okay.
Slow down, you move too fast. Morning last
Wow, you got a great voice.
chicken. I come from a family of my uncle was a very famous classical Indian singer.
You have a nice voice.
I told my dad I wanted to come to be in the music business, and he put his foot down.
Really?
That's why I don't go back. My life was formed in this country. I came here and I said, I ain't going back.
Wow.
It's a long story.
Yeah.
Anyway, sanskaras mean the impressions in the mind left behind while doing any good or bad actions.
Yeah.
It's both. Even a thought creates sanskaras. Talking, listening, thinking, seeing, eating, sleeping. In fact, even subtle motions produce many more sanskaras which have to be experienced with mechanical precision unless removed or nullified by a Sadguru's grace.
Oh, boy.
Our present life, with all its experiences of pain and pleasure, virtue and vice,
It's reading and stuff tonight.
Nobody called me.
It's reading and stuff.
Yeah, you came.
Nobody called
Wednesday is always reading.
Reading and stuff.
Not everybody, but there'd be enough to work it.
They're almost done.
Well, you announced it the other night. That's what
Yeah,
happened.
I did announce it too.
It's a beautiful Love Street
frustrated, aren't you?
lamppost. It's
Are
unbelievable.
you frustrated?
You know what's funny, Suhas, about the Sanskaras? That's okay.
Are you taping?
No, it's fine, it's okay.
Oh.
I was with Hermes Ryder
Yes.
and John Foreman in the 70s in Myrtle Beach, and also in India. We looked at some really gorgeous women walking by, and we all commented on them.
Yeah.
And I never forget what Hermes said. He said, "Oh, Fred, we all probably accrued 10 million less sanskaras in the matter of one block walking." And I laughed, at the time, but now reading this, that probably did happen.
Don't tell me that. I'm in serious trouble.
I know, because it says whether you're thinking or
Everything.
eating
That's why
or
Jimmy Carter apologized for
sleeping.
Well, the soul is like a photographic plate in which images are formed. The sanskaras are those impressions, just like if you took a mirror and started throwing powder over it. It collects dust. Those are sanskaras. Then they cannot be removed. What the master does is like using Windex. He cleans the slate so that you reflect him.
That's Buster's.
That's the example.
Oh, here's some more.
There's some more? Yeah.
You got to show that.
Yeah.
And it's because of sanskaras that we keep on reincarnating. Because we have to experience them.
Yeah.
We have to experience those and exhaust them. And that takes several lifetimes
So how it's working?
until you come in contact with a perfect master and his grace, if you deserve grace.
And then
I want to be
slide the whole
contact with the
thing
master or
in
no?
the envelope.
You're in contact with the master if you love the master totally, with all your
Yes,
heart.
absolutely.
More than that, we can't let it out.
Not
And then there'll be two
verbal,
more steps after this,
true love. Follow the master's wish,
Sure do.
Baba's wish, 5 steps. I'll explain later. To continue, our present life with all its experiences of pain and pleasure, virtue and vice is the result of our past sanskaras. The very breath we breathe, the blinking of our eyelids, the finger we lift are all due to past impressions. It is the mere unfoldment of our past subtle impressions reflected in our present life. So you are what you thought about in your previous lifetime, which you didn't finish, unfulfilled desires. And our present life goes on creating more sanskaras, like when you were with Hermes.
Where was Gigi?
I wasn't married yet.
A good word or action has its beneficial result compressed in an impression. Imagine it in the form of a circle. And a bad word or action likewise stores up a bad result in a similar subtle form. Thus, good deeds of this life assure a happy future life, and bad actions in the present life result in a miserable future birth.
So what you sow,
You reap what you sow.
reap what you sow.
That was my father's favorite saying. And it's in the Bible.
What was he saying?
Your father said that?
Yes.
What
All
is
my
it?
life I heard that. You reap what you sow. Whatever you sow, you reap. That's also in the Bible.
I don't know. When you sow,
Ecclesiastes.
Whatever you sow, you reap.
In other words, wherever you plant.
Whatever you plant, you harvest.
We have in Iran too.
Same thing. It's also in the Chinese Lao Tzu.
I think it's in all wisdom
It's
traditions.
just in the
When you
garden.
get bed, you gotta sleep in it.
Just check
Yeah,
in the
that's right. You
garden.
meant your
Same, yeah,
bed.
exactly.
You meant your bed, you have to sleep in it.
What goes around comes around, as Kennedy would say, as Harry would say.
Right.
What goes up must come down.
Let's go down.
What up?
It gets back with the fish out.
Well, we just made a silly impression.
Plant apple tree doesn't bring it pineapple for you.
Yes.
Apple tree.
Jesus said, a tree is known by its fruits. A tree is known by its fruits. Fruits are the results that you get in your life. If you're happy, you're doing good deeds to others, you are nullifying these sanskaras. You do bad things, then you get more and more, then you become more and more miserable. You understand?
Whatever you do in your life, I don't think it's so
Yes, they wanted to do a little child, our father was saying that.
good and the bad of both finding.
That's right.
Baba
Good and
said
bad
that.
are both binding.
But good
said that.
actions, this is true, but good actions give you a happier life.
Right.
Good actions are golden chains, like Mao said.
Right.
Good actions are iron.
Right.
And
Still change.
one of the ways of nullifying sanskaras is to do selfless service. When you do selfless service without a motive of what's in it for me, like these people do.
Yeah, yeah.
Like when they come in here and they say, well, I didn't get paid. That's not the thought behind it. They're doing it because they want. You do because you want to do.
Yeah.
Not because
Get money for that.
Yeah.
if I do the, no if I do this for me, no. None of that thinking. Selfless service means don't think about what's in it for me. Just do. That helps minimize your sanskaras. That's one of the ways Baba
Like
has
me,
said that.
I want to go India. I say, where should I go? I loved money. I loved it. And when money is not there, where should I go? That is bad thing to
You
do.
go before because you want to
I know.
go. You have to be.
I think,
Money is there in spirit.
where should I go? Money is not there. No, come to me. Think.
No, but actually what you're saying, you should go with the sense of
I
you're
know.
going not to see money.
I know.
You're going to experience Baba.
Came to me now. Came to me. Listen.
She's
listen
getting
me.
some revelation.
He came to you now.
Listen, we can.
She is learning.
Few days is that.
She's
So where
expressing.
should I go India? I want to see body's beautiful face on the, the line. You are standing. The mirror is that. I don't see money. You know what I mean? Selfishness, I know, but comes to me. I don't know.
Oh no, well that's human nature.
It's hard to do.
This bondage of actions is the tie that is deep-rooted and cannot be easily uprooted and gotten rid of. Good actions bind a man with a golden chain, and bad actions with an iron chain, or an iron-spiked one.
Wow.
But the chain is there in either case. They both bind, good or bad action.
Yeah.
And the man is never set free. Yoga and other practices are good and merit an aspirant a good life in the next birth, but a man is never free from bondage or given mukti, which is liberation from rebirth, as a result of them. Therefore, to achieve emancipation, one must be without virtues or sins, without any kind of sanskaras. One's slate should be quite clean, without credit or debit in one's account. Your balance sheet is balanced out, the good and bad, zeroed out. And this is impossible without the grace of the perfect master.
We need strong rubber bands.
One's slate should be quite clean without credit or debit in one's account, and this is impossible without the grace of the perfect master.
You know, an unusual story. Remember that story in New York? A devout follower came to visit Baba. He was giving individual interviews, and the man said, I am a vegetarian, I am celibate.
Something about that.
And Baba basically conveyed to him, I want you to go drink and do this, you know.
Yeah.
He told him, the man's face became red. And he said, oh, Baba, I am totally pure and celibate. I am a pure in heart individual. Why are you telling me this?
And chase women.
And yeah, he says, I want you to go drink and chase women.
Eat meat.
And eat meat,
drink,
chase
chase
women.
women.
Because he was a vegetarian, he was celibate, and he was a spiritual, like, devotee. He thought he was like a yogi.
Yeah.
And Baba said, I want you to just do the opposite. And he became red in the face, beet red. And he basically said, Baba, I can't do that. I am a pure heart. And then the story goes, they say about a year later, he was living in a brothel with women and everything else.
Yes.
And so basically, Baba, if he'd have probably agreed to do that,
It would have
maybe Baba would have instantly freed him of it without him having to do it.
Oh, but he said he was selfless.
Well, he just
It's
said,
an Eretch's book.
he just said to Baba, I am pure.
Sit here,
I'm a
Shabbat,
pure soul. I don't
fun.
But it was a false sense of purity.
I asked Harry
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
Baba said that.
there's
Baba said, I
no,
want you to go.
hey, Baba's raw, you know, I mean, it's not.
This was a private audience.
Yeah.
This is so.
Yeah.
Sign
Right on the
language.
internet.
Donna, you have a magazine and they don't have nothing. On us, I know.
I know.
Don't worry. He works for us.
Couple magazines.
Yeah.
This time he put on this glass.
No.
I'm a buying one.
Don't let him get up.
I don't know. We may have
This time the glass is
Oh, please, yeah. No, this is a
And I have
small
to
space.
say that I heard that from somebody else telling me.
It's in the Eretch's book.
No, but the gesture that I showed.
Oh, I
don't know
see.
if Baba
Okay,
did
you
that or
heard.
not.
No, he
It's
did.
probably he probably did.
What happened the last time?
You were
Those
told that?
Indians are pretty graphic.
Yeah.
Well, I guess he had nothing to hold back. He wasn't.
Baba had no
After the man
bones,
said
you
that, Baba
know.
told him go do everything.
Yes,
And
and
then
the man refused. The man says,
I'm
I
a
am a vegetarian. I'm
Baba
a
said meat,
spiritual man.
meat.
Okay.
They say within, I don't know, 6 months to a year, he was living in a brothel with the
Women drinking wine, eating meat
And then-
because
Also in India,
And then what
also occurred
happened?
in India.
Yeah, I heard
Those
that.
two
he
cases,
didn't listen
one
to
in
Baba,
one
and
in
he
India.
did exactly what Baba had told him, which he didn't want to do. See, maybe if he had taken Baba's advice and gone out with women and broken his, what was the real thing is he was living under a false sense of security that he was pure, but he was not. Baba sees everything. Baba knows everything. He knows all your lives.
Oh, he didn't go, and then therefore, after 6 months, they found him in prostitution.
They found him in a brothel, eating meat, drinking wine, doing everything that he didn't want to do, that Baba had told him to do.
Oh.
And
But
see,
at that time he got
Well,
embarrassed.
the thing with Baba was if you obeyed Baba implicitly, most likely he would have just pulled him away, saying that your obedience, I free you from going through that experience.
Wasn't just that, he had all that stuff to work out anyway, and Baba knew that.
You have to do it.
I see.
He had all that stuff to work out
Yeah.
anyway.
Ah.
Baba knew it.
Baba knew
So
it.
if he had followed Baba's will, he would have had to master
Well,
the Tsar with him. He would
Exactly.
have wiped it out.
Wiped
in
it
no
out
time.
maybe in one experience.
One-
It could
Oh
finish.
my God.
Because I tell you, Baba stresses obedience above everything.
Right.
And I want to connect that with another story that I read in Much Love about how Bhau came in contact with Baba.
Tell us then.
Bhauji, you know.
No, tell us this story.
Okay, well, Bhau was in the audience near Nagpur sometime in 54 or so. And Bhau was in the Darshan program that Baba was giving, and Baba asked Bhau if he would obey him implicitly, and also would go out with him and beg if he asked him to in the future. And Bhau agreed. Here's Baba.
Bhau agreed.
Bhau agreed to what Baba was saying. Then Baba asked Bhau to take off all his clothes in a public, they were in a darshan. Okay, now listen to this. Bhau could have refused, right? Just like that vegetarian and all that, because Baba told him to go eat meat, go hang out with women. And he said, Baba, I can't do that. Bhau started taking all his clothes and was down to his shorts. And then Baba stopped him.
Right.
Because he saw
Kennedy, you need more of these envelopes.
that when Baba said, I order you, you say to me, you're going to obey me, right? Well, I ask you, he's testing you. He won't let you go that far. That means if Baba says, I want you to take your own life, which he would not ask you to do, you must be ready to take your own life. And he was the same way that Isaac was asked to be sacrificed. Okay, the same way Isaac or Ismail. In Islam, it's Ismail. In the Judaism, it's Isaac. It's the same story. It's the same story of when the Lord asked Abraham to sacrifice Isaac or Ismail. And just when he was about to do it, because he believed in the Lord, there was the angel of end. Same thing Baba did. When Bhau was stripped down to his shorts, Baba stopped him. Why? Because Bhau said he would obey Baba implicitly. And coming back to that story about that vegetarian, Baba would say, he would have just blessed. That's what the grace of the Master means.
The discussion came up, it had to do with if you're suppressing something that you know about, and it makes you unhappy, then maybe you ought to do that, but you're suppressing because Baba doesn't want to get that.
Provided Baba gave you that order.
That's coming from Baba,
not from something you figure out saying, well, I've been sitting at home doing nothing, so I'm going to go out to a bar and get drunk and have a good time. That's your own ego motivating. You know the difference. Yeah. And it comes back to what I was saying about when Abraham was asked to sacrifice his only begotten son. Well, he prepared to do it, right? He obeyed, and the Lord stopped him just when he was about to kill. That's called faith, because he listened without question. But when you say, well, so don't hold back when Baba...
Muhammad said the same thing.
Abraham was with Ishmael. Ishmael was the descendants of Ishmael are Islam, and the descendants of Isaac are Jews. So they are cousins.
Isaac.
They are both coming from Abraham, the father.
One was Isaac, one was...
Ishmael was born of Hagar. Isaac was born of Sarah. True?
Sarah is Hajar.
Hagar or Hajar was the handmaiden of Sarah. We're kind of getting...
Hajar was the maid from Abraham.
Yes, and this was when he was 98 years old. He had his son. God's promised him a son. He said, I'm 98 years old, but he believed in the Lord. Wow. And that's obedience. That Baba says, it may be not possible for you to love me, but it's possible for you to obey me. It's easier. Therefore, do as I say. Remember we read about how the perfect master was cheating. Baba was cheating at cards and somebody saw him. And he gave the example. The perfect master went there and he took some food and ate it from a stall. And the disciples did the same thing. And he went to another place. And then he went to a blacksmith's place and he put some hot coals and put them in the mouth. He told them, you do it too. So they were afraid. So he said, do as I say, don't do as I do, because my power is higher. So because I do something, don't think you have to do it. So let's continue here. Therefore, to achieve emancipation, one must be without virtues or sins, without any kind of sanskaras.
That looks like some other thing.
Look at his hand is bleeding. This guy's tough.
Oh my God! Did you get some bandage?
Whoa, third eye.
Do we have a
Third eye.
Third eye.
It's a red
Opening
ticker.
up.
God realization.
God's becoming unrealized.
Come home, Kathy got realization.
Three guys.
Yes, you become the Shela, you be disciple.
That's the red ticker. It's that red dot
That's
thing.
the master. Kathy's the disciple.
Right. Listen.
Right, if you know her the way I do, she takes the job away from you.
I'm gonna God myself.
She's gonna go home and try to take it off.
Right.
He banged his head on the piano, now his head's all
She's gonna try to.
It's a blessing,
Put the
Billy.
wound.
Rocket Bob.
Kathy's gonna try to take it off.
Yeah, now my own hand.
You don't realize it, but that's a blessing.
Kathy, you're too much.
Some of his sanskaras may be wiped out. You may laugh, but that's it. It's oh happy day. You say Jai Baba. It is true. Baba's laughing.
You got hurt and I got hurt.
No hurt, no hurt.
She wants to take his God realization.
You really had That's too much for you. I deserve it better than you.
That's one of the best laughs I've had in a long time. That is hilarious. That is hilarious.
Shall we? Therefore, to achieve emancipation, one must be without virtues or sins, without any kind of sanskaras. One's slate should be quite clean, without credit or debit in one's account, and this is impossible without the grace of the perfect master. But for the master, it is the work of a fraction of a second. The vast, nearly infinite number of impressions in a person's mind are like straws in a haystack, which are impossible for the person to wipe out on his own. Even the process of cleaning them away through yogic practices without the help of a perfect master means contacting some kind of sanskaric impressions again in a different form. Sanskaras keep one separate from God. To realize God, the sanskaras have to be removed. Only a matchstick is needed to set the haystack on fire. It is a moment's work, but only a Sadguru has that match. He uses it for his circle members and thereby in even less than a second brings them to his own divine level of realization. Even those persons who have no direct connection with a Sadguru from past lives can derive the greatest possible benefit merely through his physical contact and company.
Wow.
That means even if you had no direct connection in your previous life, just from being around him in his presence, you can get benefit.
You know what I like? What I like also what Balaji says about your family
And I have the water.
And since, well, you have a great family tree of relationships
This is how-
with Baba. But they say even if family members don't know about Baba, since one soul knows about Baba in the family, everyone benefits. And the whole family tree.
And that's why I gave that picture to the boy. He doesn't even know. The boy doesn't know, but he's 2 years old. But the mother said to me,
He wants more.
But then after maybe about,
You finish?
you feel maybe a whole stack of these.
but his mother,
He's got about 20 of them.
And just pour. Like,
but his mother said to me, someday when he gets a little older,
that way it's moistened, but it won't be real wet.
that's it. But his mother said to me, Fred, His mother said to me, someday when he gets older, you can take him out to lunch and sit down and talk to him about Baba. And then if he's interested, he'll probably make the trip to Pune or Merazan. So you see, it's already in the works.
No, we haven't even done
See how a little thing like that can
When you
happen?
seal them
Right.
up with something. Oh, okay. Right.
That's what I did.
So when you seal
Well,
them, look
Because
for.
sow the
Do you
seed.
want to buy an
So
extra one, or do we just pull yours and
Yeah, what
not
did
give
I
it to
buy?
you?
I'll buy.
What is the whole sentence? You
I'll buy all
sow
the ones we
seed,
gave
comes
out.
back, and you said,
I have come
Can
to
you
sow
pull
the
mine
seed.
You
out?
need to do that, Fred.
Can you pull
They may
mine
not
out
want
so I
extra
can
one.
take it with me?
What's
We're
that?
gonna pull
Can you
their.
pull
I'll buy
mine
the one
out
I
with
bought.
my name?
The one I took, an extra
Yeah.
one. So
and then
here.
what is the...
And then,
I mean, you
I
basically
do.
know who
Myers
these
will
people
buy
are.
another
So when you
one.
see them,
Right, I think Lynn told me
Yeah,
that
it's
she
about
wanted to.
Adele, we want to give it to her because that's a gift.
What about
You know,
my
people
name?
that are-
Right, well.
It costs you money to mail it.
Yeah, I'll take
You
it.
said that if you sow the seed,
Yeah.
what is then?
Sow the seed.
Okay, and then...
So when did you hear this from Bao?
Well, yeah. Well,
About my family?
get what you sow.
No, I'm not speaking of just your family. I'm
Oh, any
speaking of
family.
any family who has a connection, or one of us being a Baba lover.
Yeah.
Our entire
All your
family,
family.
our father, mother, brother, sister.
No, and also your generations to come will benefit.
Yes, people that don't even know about Mayor Baba in your family.
No.
Or don't accept him, or being a Baba lover. You have a connection with the avatar.
And most people that came into contact with Baba did not believe in him right away, including people like Erach and all these. This is what we're going through.
Like us, like everybody, yeah.
There was something that about his light that was eminent that drew them to him, just like we come here. But it doesn't mean we understand everything.
No.
Some of these stories, Fred, my mom had told me in India 30 years ago, 64 or so, because Adi Irani had told her about the Sarosh being thrown out his bedding and all. And when Baba used to wrestle with like 40 people, he would ask, what Baba would do in the manzil, he would lean against the wall.
Uh-huh.
What was that?
Around this time, Adi had told this story to my mom. This book wasn't written in 1964. Baba was still alive. I heard stories from my mom.
take this.
Baba would
And then
like
slide.
have his. Baba would be.
Otherwise it slides.
Well, tell the story first.
This is the story my mom told me. Baba would be in the manzil. He would lean against a wall and put his feet up like that, and he would ask all like 20 people to push against him, and they couldn't push. Yeah, they couldn't budge him. You know, like how they put all their weight one behind the other to try, and he would ask them to do that. He'd put his feet up to move him. He had so much energy coming out. He took a man who was like a wrestler, who was like about 200 pounds, 300 pounds or so, and he dragged him from the top floor and threw him down the stairs like a rag doll. Like you take a little doll and just throw it down. When he used to get, Jalali. Well, Fred, it's getting a little late for me, so shall we continue?
What time do you have?
It's 9 o'clock.
Oh, well, we could continue on for those that want to keep reading. We'll keep reading, and then...
I'll stop.
If you have to go, yeah.
I'll leave in about...
Why you was early?
Because I get up like 4:30. I
Baba's
read...
ordered to sleep at 9.
Since I read this book, I get up I go to bed by 9, because if I go home at 10, I'll be up till like...
Oh my God, 9 o'clock, that's 9.
Last night I was up till 12, and I get up at 5.
Yeah. That's the same thing happens to me too.
My friend called me last night about giving me a copy of this.
So maybe we ought to seal those guys.
You're a sealer?
Yeah, you know how to do that.
Early in the morning on October the 5th, Meher Baba told the men he had not slept that night due to a noise in the backyard. He described the peculiar noise. It was as if someone were leveling the ground with a heavy roller. Then he explained that it was a ghost. This spirit is always with me wherever I go. He is one of the ghosts whom Arjun saw outside the hut at Pune. Upazi Mahara has put him in my charge. Some of you may see this spirit. If it happens, don't be afraid of him and don't be afraid to move about in the manzil during the night. Once while Ghani was massaging his legs at night, Baba further explained about ghosts and why he had his body rubbed. The physical contact of a human being with my body keeps the spirit world away from me for the time being, and thereby enables me to snatch a little rest. My sleep is not the sleep of ordinary human beings. It is a sort of mental rest from my spiritual working. A spirit always accompanies me wherever I go, in whatever I do. During some nights in his room upstairs, Baba was heard uttering, "They are beating and torturing me." However, this was not in reference to ghosts, but to his previous statements, which he had not explained, that he would have to suffer at the hands of so-called yogis, sadhus, and mahatmas. During October, Meher Baba sent Sadashiv Patel to Sakori to present Upazi Maharaj with some newly printed photographs of Maharaj in Saibab. Informed Upazi that his biography was soon to be printed in Urdu, Marathi, and Gujarati. Baba requested that Upazi Maharaj should raise the necessary money to pay for all printing expenses and that he would receive all proceeds from the sale of the books. Upazi Maharaj frowned at this arrangement and sent this message to Sadashiv. Merwan Narai should meet all the expenses of printing the books. After my biography is printed, he should arrange to pay me in advance half the amount of the profit he will earn from the sale of the books. The other half he may keep. To give up 50% of the expected profit, as I will do, is not a small gesture. What the spiritual charge is of a perfect master affecting the world and the inner work between masters, no one can understand. This exchange about Maharaj's biography was a divine joke between the two masters. And when Meher Baba laughed when Sadashiv delivered this message. Without hesitation, Baba went ahead with plans to publish the Urdu version of Upazi Maharaj's biography. While in Ajmer, Baba had sent to Ramju Abdullah a few of the other Mandali, back to their respective homes. One morning at the Lanbala train station, Ramju encountered his old friend Usman Sahib, the man who had first brought him into Meher Baba's contact during the trip to Mandwa. Although Ramju greeted him cordially, Usman taunted him with a couplet from Sadi's Gulistan, in pointed reference to Meher Baba.
Yeah, it's like a Rumi book. Okay.
Verily, it is worse than the tortures of hell to walk into heaven with the feet of another.
I'm sorry. The Gulistan, Baba gave it to somebody. Who gave it? Baba wanted to read it. Somebody, I didn't understand.
Ramju. Although Ramju greeted him cordially, Usman taunted him with a couplet from Sadi's Gulistan. Between 1918 and 1921, Usman often visited with Merwan at the Kasbah Peth Toddy shop. However, during 1922, before Baba left Pune for Bombay, Usman had changed his mind about him and had once again become enmeshed in the entrapment of the world. He was erroneously convinced that it did not behoove a Muslim to accept an Irani as his guru. When Ramju returned to Manzili-Mee, he informed Baba of his meeting with Usman. After lunch, Ghani read out the couplet Usman had cited, and the master discoursed about following a perfect guru. Whatever Usman Saheb told Ramju is 100% true. Heaven should be earned by our own exertions. It should never be gained by favor or by the help of someone else. It should be deserved. Yet heaven is in the realm of Maya, and even by entering it, the bondage of illusion does not snap. But to enter heaven without deserving it, merely through favor or someone else's help, is no doubt not only equal to, but worse than burning in the fires of hell. In heaven, there are beautiful experiences, and in hell, terrible ones. However, in both situations, there are sanskaric binding. In heaven, there are shackles made of gold, and in hell, there are rusty iron chains. Both types bind. It is quite useless to count on anyone's help to replace one type of fetters with another. So if Usman's interpretation is as Sadi has said, his statement is quite correct. If, however, his intention was to ridicule me or taunt you for following me, then his effort has failed miserably. As my disciples, you have nothing to do with either heaven or hell. You have to tread the spiritual path going beyond both heaven and hell to experience the infinite bliss. I have held out to you expectations of something much higher than this dream of heavenly paradise and hellish damnation. I have given you the hope that you will gain the experience me. That is to experience Param Atma, the infinite consciousness of God, and to fathom the secret creation. To gain this knowledge without the help of a God-realized master is imperfect master. Individual efforts are of no avail. Hafiz has said, without a guide, do not try to enter the path of love. I have failed hundreds of times by doing so. Maulana Rumi, whose Masnavi Usman is so fond of citing, corroborates Hafiz. Had not Maulvi Rumi been a slave of Shamsi Tabriz, he would never have become a perfect master. One whose object is the attainment of God, whose sole aim in life is to find God, what does he care for heaven and hell? In this connection, Hafiz has said, since I see my friend throughout both worlds, heaven and hell and the Horis don't worry me. Poor Usman Sahib does not understand what he talks about. To say that only Rasul-i-Khuda, Muhammad the Prophet, can point out the path or take all Muslims to heaven is a beggary that beggars description. His case is so helpless that instead of being in search of the truth, he leaves even the question of heaven for himself entirely in the hands of God, and also asserts that by our own efforts we should learn entry into heaven. Else it is hell. It is sheer hypocrisy to preach to others that which you yourself do not practice. Fred, somebody else want to take over?
When it starts getting a little bit dry, just lift it up.
Oh, take it to the
Turn it around. No, just flip it over.
The other side. Oh.
And then when it gets real dry,
Well,
I have a little water. And all you need is that
Oh, maybe
Yeah, we'll call it right then and there, and then at page, what page was that you handed in? 423, Chai Baba, and we'll continue on now the stuffing. Yeah, Chai Baba. Okay.
Steve Shehab.
Okay, go ahead.
He's Steve.
That's okay. That's fine.
Take care.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, Suhas.
Watch those scars, man.
Remember, the gold chain and the iron chain binds.
Right. Go ahead.
Okay, we're reading now.
Yeah, go ahead. We'll listen.
Whatever Usman Saheb told Ramju is what. Wait a minute.
Oh, it's right here, October.
During October, an engineer named Herji Boy came into the master's contact.
What's his
contact. Heerjibhoy.
Oh,
Herji Boy.
Herji Boy.
Herji Boy.
Yeah, we all know
Herji Boy.
Oh, yeah, the famous Herji Boy.
One of my homies.
Didn't he put power forward?
Baba once asked him to tell the Mandali about his state of affairs. He did so, often quoting from different religious sources, and sometimes he would weep during his narration. Some years ago I was working, this is his narration, some years ago I was working as an engineer and earned a large salary. Somehow I tumbled into the spiritual line and became, quote, gifted. With great efforts, I managed to reach a stage where I could easily foretell events and at times get my prayers fulfilled simply by asking. In fact, my prayers and appeals could provoke a perceptible response from the unknown.
Okay. If you got it down like this, you got to turn them up.
Okay, so then I'll go like
Yeah, if they're down like this, you got to go like this.
The bottom line, when you're done, you should see the number. There's a number.
The numbers have to be increasing. The number starts.
The number should be right here.
That number.
The first one should have a number.
Right.
In the corner.
Okay, the one on the bottom.
Yeah, the first
Yeah.
one.
Right, okay.
And you figure even if you do it wrong, you just reverse it. So.
This went on for a long time until I began to...
Is this water wet enough? I don't think it's wet enough.
Okay.
I'm having trouble getting wet with it.
Yeah, really.
Careful
So
though.
This is what we do.
Oh, Harry's going to pour some water.
Turn it around, that's the hot.
Oh, he just turned it over.
Because if it's too wet,
Oh,
it
now
can run
I
in.
think you did it right. Now it still needs more water. It's not.
You're correct, if a little bit in there, it'll ruin it.
Believe me, it'll.
Yeah.
Oh, Holy One.
Tell me when you guys are...
Go ahead, Esther. Just start reading. You're like
I
the
don't
radio.
want to over...
Well, you're a radio.
Well, you have to
I
go-
know, but it's distracting.
Well, we like the good radios. For
Well, I can stuff and listen at the
Yeah,
same
just
time. I
let's
don't
go
know
on,
why.
then we can
I don't
stop.
think that's.
This went on for a long time until I began to misuse my supernatural... Wait a minute. Okay, yeah. My supernatural achievements by speculating in cotton stocks, futures, and in other gambling endeavors. At first, this gambling became extremely lucrative, and I did not find it necessary to continue working as an engineer, so I left it and paid more and more attention to this new business. To my utter horror, he started bitterly sobbing, I soon found that the divine gift had vanished. Now, despite my best efforts, I am unable to regain that state. I cried day and night in vain, but there is no response from him, meaning God. Leaving aside the mercenary benefit I derive, which I no longer care about and will never indulge in again, I really cannot describe the intense joy and bliss I felt while in intimate communion with him. Although I have lost the treasure of foreign knowledge, I can still feel and perceive things unseen and unfelt by ordinary human beings. Hence, I need no introduction or explanation about Meher Baba, in whom I find the greatest manifestation of divinity.
This will be batch.
I firmly believe that Meher Baba can restore my lost treasure to me in the twinkling of an eye if he so wishes. He is so great. Meher Baba was pleased by Hirji Boy's frankness.
Yeah.
Look, I'll talk with what's come next Wednesday. We have a ticket for next Wednesday.
And all enjoyed his tale of woe before coming into the master's contact.
Jai
Leaving
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Thank you very much. Thank you. Good seeing you, Gus. And Kathy, tonight, you're going to take his...
Gus is darshan.
Take a darshan.
Yeah, take darshan.
Jai
Baba. Jai Baba, Gus. Jai Baba.
That's away.
Keep your God realization, Gus.
Jai Baba.
Yeah, don't let her get it from
Don't let her
you.
get it from you.
Right.
Jai Baba.
Kathy's going to take it.
Oh, yeah.
That was so funny.
Funniest thing I've heard.
I know.
Maybe
Well,
not.
Gus is the one who said it. Gus said, Gus, if you know Kathy, she's going to want to take that realization from you.
Yeah, I know. He's got a big sense of humor.
Oh, it was you who did it.
One day, Naval Talati recommended the purchase of KHWAJA Saheb's old car for the use of the master. It was purchased for 100 rupees, but repairing it cost 300 rupees more. On the afternoon of October 5th, Meher Baba, Bayramji, Gustadji, and Munshi Rahim rode in it to Malabar Hill for a test drive. When they returned, Baba remarked, "The engine is so noisy that while talking, one has to shout to be heard." It stalled twice, and Munshi had to shout to the driver over the roar of the engine. When Naval came to the Manzil, Baba facetiously told him, "You were right, the car was a steal. You really are a miracle worker." Would you believe that we drove the car all the way up Malabar Hill at terrific speed without having to blow the horn once? It's a fact. The noise of the engine was so loud that it was sufficient to make all pedestrians give way and then make them strain their necks to see who would be fool enough to ride in such a car. An ignorant, low-caste man from Ahmednagar named Kashinath was living in Bombay and working as a laundryman. The Mandali had been sending all of their clothes as well as Baba's to him, but each time the laundry was returned, a few items were missing, or someone else's clothes had been exchanged for theirs. That happened to me a few times. Kashinath was warned about this several times, but it continued at Vilu's, actually, not at the Pilgrim Center. On the 6th of October, he again...
Just a little bit.
We're almost up to now. That was the 9th. On the 6th of October, he again made the same mistake, and Baba sternly rebuked him, then dismissed his service. Baba agreed to re-employ him on the condition that Kashinath stay in the Manzil and agreed to wash only his and the Mandali's clothes there and not bring in any outsiders' clothes to wash. Kashinath accepted 50 rupees per month as his wage and joined in those staying in Manzil-e-Mean. Wait, is Kashinath the one that was taking out? I guess so. Yeah, okay. I mean, when I read, I don't know what I read. Okay. One afternoon, Baba called Ghani to massage his legs, and as he was doing it, Baba uttered, "May God help you." Ghani burst out laughing, and when Baba asked him the reason, he replied, "We generally find it very difficult to follow the drift of your utterances. Your words seem to have a deeper meaning than that denoted on the surface. Only yesterday you remarked that I looked healthy, and particularly said that my neck had grown quite fat and strong. Now look, today my neck is very stiff and is causing me a lot of pain." Hearing this, Baba laughed. Ghani enjoyed esoteric wisdom and later asked, "Didn't you tell me that the worldly knowledge, education, and